just a bluff, Gunther. You just happen to have found out where this man, Slade, has been spending his time. It doesn't mean a thing.
Well, even if I didn't see you there, Mr. Whitney, an awful lot of people did. You willing to take a chance on a police investigation? You never know what they might come up with. Some bum that saw you there with Slade, or maybe one of those exotic dancers. You never know.
Why am I listening to this drivel?
Yeah, well, it was you that told Chrissy it was okay to take the night off. It was you that set up that urgent trip to Chicago. Only, what happened, Mr. Whitney? Did you get cold feet? Is that why you hustled back here in that private jet to practically blow Romeo in half?
All right, Gunther. That's enough, damn you. I won't listen anymore.
No more orders, Mr. Whitney. From now on, things are going to be a little bit different around here. From now on, I'm giving the orders. When I say jump, you say how high. Don't worry, Mr. Whitney. We won't let the world know about our little arrangement. I'll still be good, faithful servant. Well, the dear Dr. Kavanaugh, what a surprise.
It's you I want to talk to, Mr. Whitney.
About what?
About what happened here tonight. Are you aware that your servant here launched still another attack on my little sister-in-law, Jody
Attack?
Travis?
Why, that's a funny
You
word.
shut up. I'm speaking to your employer. Listen, Mr. Whitney, I'm going to have to give you a choice. Either I level a formal complaint against Gunther with all the attendant publicity, or else you do something to make sure this never happens again, such as firing him.
Firing me? That's not nice, Doc, depriving me of my
I'm talking to you, Mr. Whitney. Will you please answer me? Are you aware of what happened here?
Go ahead, Mr. Whitney. Tell him.
Yes, I was here.
And?
Jody arrived just as I was coming down the stairs. Gunther admitted her.
And what'd you see?
Well, nothing, really. Gunther may have said something offensive to her, but that's about all.
Well, Mike should be here in another 10 minutes or so.
Good.
Here are your drinks. Sherry? Yes, thank you. And cognac for you. Enjoy. Thank you. Tell me, Damien, did you know Mrs. Saxon when you lived in Washington? Oh, she would have been Geraldine Whitney at that time.
No, I didn't know her myself, but I'm sure my father ran into her on several occasions. She was a very active lady in Washington social circles, so I understand.
Yes, she was. I should tell you. I know who your father was. I know what happened to him.
I know. I didn't really think that I could keep that part of my life secret for very long. In fact, I'm kind of relieved that the truth is finally out.
Well, why did you feel it was necessary to be secret?
I knew it would be helpful.
In what way?
Well, I thought it would make it easier for me to do what I have to do.
Well, what is it that you have to do? Oh, forgive the question. Reporter's instinct. I'm sorry.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's something that I would prefer to see out of print. In fact, I would be happy never to see my father's name in print again, except for a vindication.
Well, now, I know that he was with the State Department for many years, but he wasn't a public sort of person, was he?
Well, he wasn't the kind of man who gave press interviews or sought publicity. But his job with the State Department was very important, and it certainly meant a lot to him.
I do remember the story on his suicide.
Yes. Well, there wasn't much to that, was there? A couple of lines in the press, official obituary, and after that, nothing. No, there are very few people who know the real reason my father killed himself. And, of course, far too many people who think they know the reason.
What was the reason?
My father was about to be investigated as a possible traitor to his country. He was suspected of having stolen certain vital defense strategy documents. Well, I'm sure you heard all about that.
Oh, yes, I had, but I mean, that was years ago. What, about 4 years ago? I'm sure everybody's forgotten about that by now.
I haven't forgotten. I don't use my father's name for a reason, but that doesn't mean I've forgotten it. In fact, There's another name that I will never forget.
What's that?
Jefferson Brown.
I don't believe this. I'm telling you, Jody came home in a state of panic. She says this trained bear of yours tried to maul her.
Nothing like that happened, Doctor. You've got my word.
Well, maybe it happened before you came downstairs.
No, I was here when Gunther admitted her, and I didn't hear what he said, but I know nothing physical happened.
Yeah, you see, Doc, your sister-in-law just misinterpreted things. Young girls are like that. But I was just joking around, just kidding. No harm in that, is there?
There may be plenty of harm in it for you, Gunther. You can consider that a warning.
Nancy, I don't use my father's name for a reason. That doesn't mean I've forgotten it. Just as I can't forget another name.
What name is that?
Jefferson Brown. Now, I'm sure you haven't heard of him. His name was never in the press. Except on one possible occasion.
Well, it does sound familiar, but I can't quite... Mike, hi, darling.
Hi, honey. This is a nice surprise.
Well, it's good to see you, Mike.
How are you, Damien?
I'm afraid I'm intruding on a private party.
No, not at all.
No. I've been wanting to talk to you for some time, Damien.
Well, I have been talking to Nancy. In fact, I've already told her more than I've told anybody else in this town.
Yes, Nancy does have that effect on people.
I was just telling her about a man named Jefferson Brown. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I don't think so.
Well, he worked for my father. You might say he was his trusted assistant. Unfortunately, he was totally unworthy of trust. No, I don't really know Jefferson Brown. I met him in my father's office a couple of times. On the surface, he seemed like an honest, straightforward fellow, but no, there was something in his eyes, a hungry look. No, it's difficult to explain.
How long did he work for your father?
I don't think it was even a year. He seemed like a bright enough guy. He got through college on scholarships. He had a military record. Actually, his history is very difficult to trace.
You sound as though you tried.
Yes, I did.
Here's your vodka tonic, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What was so important about this man, Brown? Did he have something to do with what happened to your father?
I think he had everything to do with it.
Damien was just telling me about his father's suicide, about the allegations against him.
There's no secret about it. I'm sure you've heard the story.
Just part of it. Something about missing documents.
Yeah, just several pieces of paper. That's all. They were enough to destroy my father's life and change my own life. Oh, don't misunderstand me. They were very important papers. They were contingency documents. I'm sure you know what that means.
Yes, defense strategies that could be put into use if they had to, but I'm sure there must be hundreds of documents like that.
That's true. And these were no more or less important than any others, but they disappeared. And the finger of blame pointed at my father. Of course, he was innocent. I know it's natural for a son to defend his father, but my father and I were very close. We always felt totally free to confide in one another.
Even so, Damien, sometimes there are areas in a person's life where no one is included, not even a close relative.
I understand that. I realize that I start from a very deep personal bias. But I have another starting point also. Jefferson Brown.
Are you implying that he was the thief?
I am absolutely convinced that he stole those documents.
But what was his motive? What, was he a spy?
No, I don't think he was a foreign agent or anything like that. In fact, this was not a political situation. I don't think Jefferson Brown ever had a political conviction in his life. He had one primary concern: money.
And of course, these documents were marketable.
Well, he was greedy enough to think so, but as it turned out, he was wrong. I don't think he got a dime off of them. He just managed to destroy the man who trusted him.
Damien, how sure are you of your allegations?
Well, I do not have any solid evidence, if that's what you mean. If I did, I would have cleared my father's name a long time ago.
But if your father was innocent...
Mike, my father was in very bad shape when this happened. My mother had died several years before, and he never really got over it. And then when the documents disappeared, well, I'm sure that he felt a very strong sense of guilt, even though he didn't take them. I mean, it was his department, it was his responsibility. And then when he realized that they suspected him, I think it was just too much for him.
Had you, mentioned any of this before now, your theory?
By the time I realized the truth, Nancy, it was too late. After my father's suicide, Jefferson Brown left the country. He went to Switzerland. I later realized that there had to be a connection. He obviously left the country to try to sell those documents.
But you said he didn't succeed.
Oh, no, I don't see how he could have. I mean, the State Department changed the contingency plan almost immediately. I'm sure that every major foreign power was aware of that. Those documents were worthless.
So, that left Jefferson Brown in Switzerland.
Yes. And he did something unforgivable there.
What was that?
He died.
That wraps it up. We've got the sworn statements of everyone involved except the perpetrator himself, the late Mr. Romeo Slade. However, I did get this, the autopsy report. Death by lead poisoning.
I don't know, Calvin. Something still bothers me about this case.
Yeah? Like, what?
Well, you look at this yellow sheet, there's not a thing here on burglary. But yet this guy managed to break into one of the most luxurious mansions in town in one of the most exclusive districts with apparently no problem. I don't buy it.
Maybe he's just good at his job. Maybe that's why he, never got a conviction.
Maybe, but I'd still like to be assured he didn't have any inside help.
Okay, well, what's your hunch? I mean, we've already checked out the Summers girl. There's certainly nothing in her background of that kind.
Can't say the same thing for Gunther's background, can we?
We certainly can't, but we haven't found anything that connects him with Slade.
Calvin, I think I'm going to have to stop by the Whitney mansion on my way home tonight. You never know what a surprise visit just might turn up.
Excuse me, I thought you were alone.
He is. Oh, by the way, Miss Bannister, I hear your client copped a plea, got 5 to 10. Got awful light.
I thought you'd be pleased, Chief.
Good night.
Good night, Chief.
Well, that was really nice, Mr. Whitney. No kidding. I really appreciate the way you handled that. Because it's the truth, I did not manhandle that little girl. I do not fool with children. I was just having a little fun, that's all. We're all entitled to a little fun now and then, aren't we? I was just thinking of the good old days when Miss Martine was living with us.
Stop drinking, Gunther. Your nostalgia is making me sick.
Well, we had fun in those days, Mr. Whitney. And even though Miss Martine was right there, still it didn't stop you from having your fun, did it? Tell me something. Is it going to be the same with you and Mrs. Whitney?
I think I'm going to bed.
And I think you're going to sit right there. Well, come on, you can tell me. You're not a one-woman man any more than I am. Hey, wait a minute. Is that the reason for all this? Is that the reason you decided to get rid of your blushing bride because you knew it couldn't be the same with her? Yeah, I bet that's it. Yeah, I think you suddenly realized what a big mistake you had made, and you found out that it's not so easy to get rid of a wife legally without paying out a lot of money. Well, same thing happened to me, That rotten first wife of mine, she took me for a bundle. Well, is that the way it was? Oh, come on, you can tell me. You're my pal now.
If you think you can blackmail me into being your drinking buddy, you're nuts.
Well, I was just kidding. Well, more company, huh? Unless, of course, Mrs. Whitney forgot her keys. I tell you, that lady has got to be more careful with her keys. Well.
Gunther, I'm here to see Mr. Whitney.
Has Doc Kavanaugh been talking to you?
Not recently. Why? Should he have?
No. Yeah, Mr. Whitney's here. Police Chief Mallory to see you, sir.
Hello, Chief.
I'm sorry to bother you, Mr. Whitney. It's about the Slade case, of course.
Well, what more can I do? I've filled out the affidavit. I've done everything you asked.
Well, no, I've read your statement and Mrs. Whitney's statement. Mrs. Whitney home right now?
No, she's out visiting friends.
Well, I promise you I won't take up much of your time. You see, I'm just bothered by some of the facts that we've been developing. In terms of this break-in last night.
No, he didn't break in. I checked all the doors. There's no damage.
Gunther, we know he got in with his own pass key, and we know how he got the key, but we still refer to it as a break-in.
Well, you know, there is one good thing. He's not going to be breaking in anywhere else. And he's sure not going to be breaking into heaven.
Mr. Whitney, can we discuss this alone, please?
Yes, Gunther, why don't you go clean some silver or something?
Yes, sir. That's a good idea, Mr. Whitney. I'll just clean some silver. Hey, maybe I'll just polish your little boots for you. Huh? Get right on that.
See, the truth is, there's a little bit of confusion about what happened tonight. It's not that I don't believe Jody's story. It's just that it could be that she overreacted a little bit.
Why? What did she say happened?
Well, she said that she went to the Whitney house right after she left the TV studio.
Oh, that's right. She told me she was going there. You know, we never did have that scheduled interview because she decided it wouldn't be a good idea since she decided not to be the star of the dance
I know
company.
that's what she was going to tell Sky Whitney, but when she got there, he was not available. He was taking a nap or something. So Gunther thought he would take advantage of the fact that they were alone together.
Miles, this has just gone too far now. I refuse to have that man terrorize my
How
sister.
do you think I feel about it?
That doesn't mean you have to do anything. Oh, Miles, you did do something.
Yes, I strapped on my 6 shooters and went right over there.
Did you go over there?
Yes, I did.
Well, thank heavens you're home in one piece.
Home in one piece. I'm just a little confused about something. I saw Mr. Whitney, and he said that nothing happened.
What?
He saw Gunther let Jody in, and that Gunther maybe passed a few unpleasant remarks to her, but there was no assault, nothing.
Oh, I don't understand. Do you believe that?
No, I don't believe it at all. I think he's probably covering up for Gunther. He probably wants to avoid the bad publicity, but he's going to get something, whether he likes it or not.
Why? What are you going to do?
I'm going to ask Jody to file a formal complaint.
Oh, no, Miles, she won't do that. Now, Whitney is her employer.
Not anymore. Now she's going to quit the company.
Well, what if she refuses? Then
She
what?
won't refuse.
Well,
She
what
can't.
if she does? That doesn't mean that you're going to do anything, does it?
We'll see.
Oh, Miles, you mustn't. Really, now, that man is dangerous. It's you can't deal with somebody like that without the support of the law. Oh, please, Miles, I don't want anything to happen to you or to Jody.
Mr. Whitney, do you think it's possible that Slade might have benefited through some inside information, maybe through one of your workmen? Could have provided him with a tip to the layout? Or maybe some of the hired help during the wedding?
No, I don't think so, Chief. If you ask me, it's just a question of Slade reading the stories in the newspaper and deciding that we were ripe for the picking.
That's certainly a possibility. How about your man Gunther? Do you have complete confidence in him?
Oh, yes. Complete confidence.
Well, I guess then that's about it. No, one more thing. The items that Slade packed together that he was going to take with him. Have you had a chance to look through these yet?
Well, they're all put away by now.
Oh. Well, did you notice that anything was indeed missing?
Well, it's tough to say, you know. I mean, I did not have a complete inventory of everything that was in the house, what with the wedding presents and all, but as far as I can tell, everything is there.
Excuse me, Mr. Whitney. It looks like Chrissy polished all the silver, and I couldn't find your boots. Anything else you want me to do?
No, Gunther, why don't you just relax for the rest of the evening?
Very good, sir.
I think I'll be on my way. Thank you very much, Mr. Whitney.
Oh, allow me, Chief.
Good night.
Good night, Chief.
Good night, Chief.
Good night.
You know, I just heard about the stuff that Romeo was supposed to take. Well, come on now. You didn't tell him to rob the house, did you, Mr. Whitney?
I'm going to bed.
Yeah, well, one of the most valuable items that was in the house wasn't here when Slade busted in. That pretty little watch you got. The one Mrs. Whitney gave you.
So what?
Well, I sure admire that watch. May I see it for a minute?
No.
Oh, please, just for a minute. Oh, I sure admire this watch. It has my initials, you know. GSW. Well, they're not in the right order, but that doesn't matter. You know, I would be eternally grateful if someone would give me this watch. How about it?
You're mad. Give me that watch.
Nah, I think you should give it to me as a token of your esteem for my loyalty. Okay? And this is just the beginning. And I sure hope you understand that.
Oh, yes, Gunther, you are so right. This is only the beginning.
But you don't have to rush off. Oh, no, I have things to do. My goal for the day is to transfer 6 dresses from the designer shop at Bennett's into my closet. So I better get started. Well, have fun. You, don't seem your perky self. Is something wrong? Well, it might have something to do with the letter I got from Draper. Did it start out, Dear Jane? Oh, Raven, I hate to disappoint you, no. It's just a change of plans, but he won't be back in Monticello for that week as he had hoped. It must have been something very heavy involving the investigation that he didn't come home. Oh, I don't know. Something about, some man who they tentatively identified as a deposed South American dictator who happens also to be one of Bryson's patients. Obviously, he didn't like the publicity and jumped town on it. I heard about that. Yeah, well, in any case, Draper's too busy now to come back. Well, did they identify any of Dr. Bryson's other clients? Sure, his legitimate patients. Oh. Well, I think you should tell Draper to come right back here where he belongs with his wife and growing family. Oh, that's easier said than done. He does not like to admit defeat. For heaven's sake, who does? I certainly don't want to add any pressure on him by making him feel guilty about quitting. Well, what's so important about this investigation anyway? I don't know. It's important to Draper, it's important to the police, and I can think of, well, at least one other person who'd like to know a little bit more about Bryson's patients. Mm-hmm. Valerie Bryson herself. And why is she so curious? Well, it may sound silly, but she fell in love with one of Bryson's patients, a man who was having facial reconstruction, so the whole time that she spent with him, she never even saw what he looked like. I don't know, I think that's kind of romantic. I think it's morbid. Well, the story moved me. The guy was a soldier in Vietnam. That's where he got hurt. I even remember his name. Lieutenant Diedrichson.
When I think about what must have been going through Jody's mind when Gunther attacked her again like that, I'm just praying that the incident doesn't leave any kind of lasting scar.
Let's just be glad that our lover boy was interrupted before anything could really happen. Anyway, don't worry about it. When I get through with this clown, he is going to regret having ever even looked at your sister-in-law.
Derek, it's going to be impossible to get an indictment.
Why do you say that?
Because when I went to the Whitney mansion, Gunther denied making any kind of a move on Jody.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
The point is that Sky Whitney backed him up. Said that nothing unusual happened. Gunther may have made a nasty remark or two, but that Jody overreacted.
First thing we got to do is get Jody down here tomorrow morning. Have her make out a formal complaint against Gunther. I can't do a thing until I get...
She won't do it, Derek.
Why?
She says she feels like she's already been through the ringer and she doesn't want to make any more fuss over it.
Well, if she won't make a complaint, then her only recourse is just to stay out of his way.
That's twice now. She's come home half scared to death by that creep. And, you know, considering how reluctant she is to talk about, there may be other times we don't even know about.
How are you feeling? Oh, like it's been ages since I've been together with my husband.
Well, it's only temporary. And everything that I've heard suggests that it won't go on much longer.
Why? Why do you say that? Because Dr. Bryson's done such a good job of covering up his tracks?
Well, it just seems that there's not much more evidence to be gathered over there anyway. And the minute that Draper resigns himself to that fact, he'll be hopping on the first Monticello-bound plane.
Maybe.
I'll tell you, closing up shop in Europe right now is going to be very difficult for Draper.
Now, why do you say that?
Well, because he's the kind of a guy who, when he does a job, he wants to do it 110%. He's not going to want to quit until he finishes what he set out to do.
Exactly why I have come to a decision.
Oh, I have a feeling I know what's coming.
Draper is not going to have to worry about coming back to Monticello because I have decided to pack not only my bags, but Julia's, and we are going to join Draper in Europe.
April, you can't do that.
Why not?
Because you are much too far along now. Miles, tell her that.
Oh, I can't give her any kind of advice. I'm her brother. I'm not her obstetrician.
And it is my OB who said it is precisely because I am so far along that I can travel. There's no risk to the pregnancy anymore.
Well, it just seems like you're taking an awfully big chance.
Nicole, I am healthy, my baby is healthy, and once I am with my husband, I will be not only healthy, but happy. And what better condition could a mother-to-be hope for?
Well, you could be a little...
I have made up my mind. I miss my husband too much. It's just something that I have to do.
Well, I must admit, if Miles was the one in Europe, I'd be the first one making sure my passport was valid.
Don't encourage her.
You don't like the idea?
No, it isn't that. It's just that...
I'm going to be a little disappointed. I have to be thousands and thousands of miles away from my new little nephew or niece when he gets born. But you got my blessing.
I thought about that. And, well, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I think it'd be kind of neat for Julia to have a little baby brother or sister with an accent, huh?
Well, I got news for you. All babies gurgle in the same language.
Oh?
Okay, April, now that you've made this decision, you must have 1,000 loose ends to tie up.
Not really. Just this apartment, really.
Yeah, what are you going to do with it?
Well, I certainly don't want to sell it, and I don't know, I think it'd be more trouble than it's worth to close it up, so I guess that's where I came up with my other brilliant idea.
And that is what?
Would you two consider moving in? Well, you told me you were house hunting, right?
Well, yes.
And I don't know how long I'm going to be away in Europe, so it just makes perfect sense to me.
April, considering our family's kind of modest beginnings, I don't know whether I could get used to living in a penthouse like you have.
Come on. Look, that house over there is too cramped for all of you. Move in here while you're looking for another place. Plenty of room for the two of you, for Adam, for Jody.
To say nothing of the dog.
You gotta say yes. It'd make me feel a lot better about leaving.
Well, it certainly is a magnificent apartment.
Oh, let's see. It's got 3 bedrooms, a study, a maid's room.
And a kennel will be perfect.
It is perfect, and it's also a perfect location. Look, you won't even have to drive to work. You could walk to the office. And Nicole, you'd be 10 minutes by car away from the station.
That is a point, Miles. I'd be able to get home a lot easier between broadcasts to be with you and Adam.
I must say, April, you're dangling an awfully attractive carrot in front of our noses.
Well, is it yes? Will you take it over?
Why'd I let my wife make the decision?
Look at her face.
I'll be back to take your order in just a minute.
Okay. So here we are. Yes, here we are. Our last conversation here ended a bit abruptly. It was very kind of you to give me a second chance. Raven, I'd like to set the record straight. About what? About your concerns regarding my relationship with your husband. Well, you were a face in my husband's past, and a very pretty one. We were little more than casual acquaintances. I can assure you, you have nothing to worry about. I mean, I am no femme fatale, and I certainly have no designs on your husband. If you say so, I believe you. The case is closed. Fine with me. I mean, it really does seem sort of silly for you to dislike me for a reason that doesn't even exist. Hey, I didn't come here to talk about Sky anyway. Actually, I'm interested in you because of something April Scott told me. What was that? Well, she said that you had a very unique experience a few summers ago in your father's clinic, and I found it fascinating. I'm a romantic, and it sounded very romantic. I became very friendly with one of my father's patients. He was an Army officer who was having a complete facial reconstruction. She told me his name, but I don't remember. Diedrichson. Lieutenant Jim Diedrichson. Right. So what happened to him? Well, that's a good question. I had to go back to school, and he was released from the clinic, and I never saw him again.
So you never actually saw what he looked like?
He was always swathed in bandages. I wouldn't recognize him if I passed him on the street. Except, of course, if he told me his name.
Did you sleep with him?
You really have a one-track mind.
Well, I mean, we're having girl talk. What harm is it telling me?
Raven, last time we were here, you asked me if I slept with your husband. And now you want to know if I've had an affair with a man you don't even know.
Oh, I'm curious. It's part of my charm.
Well, I'm sorry. That kind of charm just escapes me. And as a matter of fact, I've lost my appetite, so please excuse me.
What happened to Miss Bryce? Did she forget she had something to do at the photo shop?
I guess something like that. Looks like it's going to be lunch for one.
Well, what would you care to have, Mrs. Whitney?
Oh, the usual salad. Could you please deliver it over there, because I am going to dine at that table. Don't shoot. It's only me.
Well, look who's here.
Hello, Derek.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. You certainly look beautiful today.
Thank you. I hate to interrupt any high-level police discussion that may be going on here, but I am having a little bite to eat, and I'm alone, so could I join you?
I don't think that'd be a good idea.
I promise I'll be quiet. I won't even chew loudly.
Now, look, like you say, we are in the middle of a police discussion, okay?
Have a nice day.
Mrs. Whitney?
Oh, forget about the salad. It looks like it's going to be lunch for none.
Yes, I know she's interesting, but I'm still interested in what you were going to tell me.
Actually, I was just going to say something about Raven Whitney.
I already know more about that woman than I care to.
Chief, this is business. The reason I was interested in Martine Duval and that I'm interested in Raven Whitney is because they were both associated with the same man.
Schuyler Whitney?
Precisely.
Why are you interested in him?
Sky Whitney happened to be in Switzerland the same time as Jefferson Brown. In fact, they were both on that same plane that crashed in the Alps.
Well,
Sky Whitney was the only one who survived. Frankly, Chief, I think Jeff Brown may have survived as well.
what the hell are you trying to say?
Look, Chief, after my father's suicide, there was really no one that the Senate Investigation Committee could talk to about those missing documents, with the exception of one man.
Except for his assistant, Jefferson Brown.
Exactly, and he'd resigned at that time. He left the country to go to Switzerland, presumably to rest his shattered nerves. But there was another reason.
You think he went there to sell those documents he'd stolen?
I don't think it, I know it. He went abroad to make himself rich, but he couldn't do it. The State Department changed the contingent strategy as soon as they realized those documents were missing. I'm sure he was scared to death when he realized that there were people back in the States who'd like to talk to him. Probably recognized that some smart detective would track him down.
And he never came back, is that it?
No, he never came back. He died in that crash in the Alps. How convenient.
Death is a convenience.
It is when it happens on top of a mountain where people are not likely to find a missing body. Don't you see what I mean?
Do you know what I see, Tyler? I see that your theory is all speculation. Do you see that?
I know. It's just a feeling I have. It's a very strong feeling. A feeling that Jefferson Brown is alive and well somewhere.
Hello. Surprised to see me.
Well, yes, I am. I didn't expect you back so early. What happened to that mile-long shopping list of yours?
I went to see some people instead. I went to see April Scott, and then I had lunch with Valerie Bryson, your little friend.
She's not my little friend.
Oh, that's right. But she is a friend of Lieutenant Diedrichson, isn't she? A very good friend. Don't you try to deny it. You told me all about Lieutenant Diedrichson, that phony name you used at the clinic in Lucerne. She didn't even know you were Mr. Brown.
Oh, will you shut up? Don't be a damn fool.
Well, you didn't tell me about her, did you?
Yes,
You're a bad
did.
boy.
I told you that I met her there.
In San Moritz?
Yeah.
Yeah, you met her in San Moritz. And then you found out what her father did for a living. That really intrigued you, didn't it?
No, it didn't. It wasn't until later. I mean, it wasn't until later that... Look, you're being ridiculous. You're working yourself up into a pointless frenzy.
It's not pointless. You were in love with her, weren't you?
Of course not.
Well, you met her again in Lucerne.
Look, I never knew her in San Moritz. It was the other. It was the original Sky. And she loathed him, too. He tried to get her in bed after she knew him for just an hour.
The cad.
Jefferson Brown never knew Valerie Bryson. Now, don't you understand that? All I did was stand by while Boy Millionaire put the moves on her.
Well, she looked like an easy target to me, too.
Oh, come on. She was an 18-year-old kid. She was still in school.
I don't care what she was. Mr. Romantic Lieutenant Diedrichson, with his face all shot up by the enemy.
I had to have a cover, Raven.
You know what you had to have. You had to have a pretty little blonde to play with while your face got healed.
But there was never any romance between us. I mean, first of all, my face was all covered in bandages. She never knew what I looked like. I mean, I didn't even get to kiss the girl, for crying out loud. Now, you're being very silly.
I am, aren't I?
Yeah.
I can't help it. These past few days have been so crazy.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The thing that really upsets me is the thought of that blonde little twerp in love with you.
Look, it wasn't me. It was just a situation.
She just died. She knew you were really three men. Lieutenant Diedrichson, Schuyler Whitney, and Jefferson Brown.
Raven, will you be a little bit discreet? I don't know where Gunther is. He could be lurking around here or anything. The last thing we need is for Gunther to know our little secret.
All right. I won't say anything else, I promise.
I'm going to hold you to that promise.
Drinking awfully early in the day, aren't you? Did you have any lunch? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Couldn't be better.
Look, I hate to leave, but I have a hair appointment at 2, and I want to go see Geraldine at the hospital. What time is it anyway? I forgot my watch.
Oh, you know, I forgot my watch, too. I must have left it upstairs in the bedroom.
So, Schuyler Whitney, you were interested in all along. That's why you were tailing Martine Duval. That's why you're now interested in Raven. That is why you're interested in Raven, isn't it?
Look, all I want is the truth. Did Jefferson Brown die in that plane wreck?
I can't tell you whether you're right or wrong or not, but I can tell you that you're probably wasting your time.
Well, it's my time. And Fowler Wilcox was my father. He died with the whole world thinking he was a traitor to his country. I have to prove them wrong.
I want to help you, Sky. You know about that investigation on Dr. Bryson, right?
Yes, I've heard.
All right, well, April's husband, Draper, is the head of that investigation. He is going around trying to find the names of all those people who had their faces changed, and he wants to know the reasons. And doesn't that worry you a little bit?
But I appreciate your concern.
Well, I just thought I would see if Draper was onto anything.
Well, I can tell you the answer to that. If Draper is looking for records of Dr. Bryson, he's not going to find any because Dr. Bryson never kept any records. All the patients were given were numbers, and that's all. There were no photographs around, or if there were any that were taken for surgical reasons, they were all carefully destroyed after the procedure. And he did not allow any photographs to be taken afterwards.
I'm sure that disappointed his daughter. She was a photographer.
Oh, is that the reason that you went to see Valerie? Because you were concerned that she might know our little secret?
The reason I went to see Valerie is because April told me she was in love with Lieutenant Diedrichson, and that was you.
Well, that's another thing that you don't have to worry about, because as far as she was concerned, I was just a fantasy figure. I was the war hero coming home to get his face fixed so he could rejoin the human race.
Oh, how romantic.
It was a way to pass the time, Raven.
You were concerned. You offered her a job. You tried to get her to leave the country by having one of your companies offer her a job abroad.
Well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Well, that was a wonderful idea. I wish you would have accepted it. I just assumed she weren't in this country. I think she's a little too cute for her own good.
You don't have anything to worry about. There is nothing that's going to come between us. It's much too important to me.
to us.
Oh, it feels so good to have you by my side, to have someone that I can share my life.
Our life is going to be one big wild adventure.
Sometimes it is a bit too adventurous.
What do you mean? Is there a problem? What's wrong?
Nothing I can't handle.
We think that it's best for all involved that Jody doesn't open the Whitney Dance Company next week.
We think.
That's right, it's a mutual decision. We feel, as I've told you on numerous occasions, that Jody just isn't ready in this stage of her development to carry the load of a major company. Now, you've got to understand, Sky, this is for your good as well as hers. Now, I know you're dead set on having your own discovery. But you've got to understand this also, that it is much more important to have a good, solid company with dependable performers.
Well, it's nice that you're thinking of me, Gavin.
Oh, yes, I'm thinking of you. And I'm also thinking of all those hardworking kids in the company. They deserve success. Don't hamper them with a performer who doesn't believe in herself.
It seems to me that she used to believe in herself. It seems to me that she was talked out of it.
No, wasn't by me.
I think that it was. Just as this idea of quitting was your idea, just as it's your idea now.
You're wrong. The reason Jody came here last night was to say what I'm saying right now, that she's leaving.
I'm sorry. I can't accept this second-hand resignation.
You'll have to, because it's definite now. She will not be attending any more rehearsals. I've told her to stay home and rest, and she needs to rest, believe me. She's exhausted. More by her emotions than by her dancing.
It's not Jody who's no longer going to be with the company, Gavin. It's you.
All right, Sky. I expected this. Go on, find yourself a new choreographer. But while you're at it, find yourself a new star.
I am not going to let you ruin months of work.
Whose hard work? Yours? You just sat back and expected miracles.
I put together this whole damn dance company, and it is going to be the best damn dance company in this country. And you are not going to spoil it.
I've heard all the threats, Sky. What were you going to do this time? Were you going to send Gunther around to break my leg again? Well, I got news for you. I would have been prepared for him this time.
Oh, Gavin, don't tell me that you're armed.
As a matter of fact, I am. And you can tell Gunther that. And if he comes around with any rough stuff in mind, I am prepared to get even rougher.
Well, I wouldn't want to tell that to Gunther. You know, he's got a very frail constitution. The news might kill him. All right, your resignation is accepted, Gavin. I'll get off my property.
Gladly.
Oh, there is one more thing. You're to stay away from Jody Travis.
Now, how do you plan to do that?
You are not going to interfere in my plans, Gavin, because if you do, you're going to be very sorry.
Just who the hell do you think you are to tell me who I can see and who I can't, especially my girlfriend?
Well, well.
Now, I have said everything that I have to say. And I am very sorry you didn't take it the way you wanted to. So long, Sky. I'll be seeing you. I have to go back to tell Joey that we're both through.
Leaving so soon, Mr. Wiley?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's a shame. You just got here.
Be careful, Gunther. You know, he tells me that he's armed.
No kidding. Oh, well, I didn't feel anything.
Keep your hands off me.
What are you going to do, Mr. Wiley? Hurt me?
No, I wouldn't hurt any hair on your head.
You're a funny kid, aren't you?
You know, I promised Jody that I wouldn't do anything to you, and I've got to keep that promise, so don't tempt me.
Yeah? Well, what were you planning to do?
I had no plans at all.
Gunther! Gunther! Gunther!
All right, now, why did you stop me, Mr. Whitney? I could have killed that punk!
Yes, Gunther. I was thinking just the same thing. That is exactly what we are going to do.